man that spends 42 years in one place really becomes a part of that institution. And so it's tough for myself and a lot of the Barn family to sum everything that Jim's done, you know, just in one afternoon, you know, a little bit of time here. What it is, this is about celebration for him, as the barn continues, and the things that he has started and worked his life, that things can continue and grow. And the one thing about Jim really is that I've had people ask me interviews, things of that nature, what could you tell me about Jim? And the one thing I can tell you about Jim is that he, I'm a little hot there, Sam, thank you, sir. That Jim was very, you know, he was a caring guy under his kind of gruff, you know, exterior, but he cared about people more than necessarily himself, and that really is what Jimmy was. He was very skilled, very dedicated to the things that he did outside of, you know, normal day life, but he cared about people. He really did. And you know, I really, I've known Jimmy almost all my life, and besides Dusty and myself, he's been the anchor here for, you know, the longest period of time. So I apologize. I really want to do him justice in regards to what I have to say, but he was. I know he had brothers down in Indiana, but he was kind of my my older brother in a sense, that I've known him, you know, since I was 5 years old, you know, kind of thing. So
we're all really devastated at the loss of Jim Knox, and I think this is a fitting tribute to him here in the space that he loves so much and lived most of his life. I just want to acknowledge that, you know, Jim Knox, in addition to his life here at the barn, helped start the Kalamazoo Game Lesbian Resource Center and CARES to make our lives better here in our community. And I don't think that we can ever say thank you enough for someone who was so brave at a time when it was difficult to even be out or to even acknowledge HIV in our community. I met Jim when I came onto the board of CARES in 2000. And what I first recognized when I was getting to know him was he was a very humble man who lived very, very humbly and used all of his resources to support the causes that meant a lot to him. I was very impressed by that. He was a great role model for us. So of course he attended hundreds of events in our community, fundraisers, meetings, but he also took the time to know our staff, came into the office quite frequently, gave all of our staff Christmas gifts every year. And those gifts themselves were usually purchased from organizations that supported other causes. He just used all of his resource to make this world, and particularly our community, a better place. Jim contributed financially to our organizations as well. He was especially passionate about our support group, about our client care funds, and about our endowment funds to make sure that organizations like ours continue to exist. And overall, Jim Knox was our greatest single contributor over the years at CARES. For 20 years, Jim Knox was the board president at CARES. 20 years. Sat on our board as president. And upon his retirement, we started a campaign to raise money for that endowment fund that Jim drove so much to create and to support. And we renamed our boardroom in his honor. And now we have the Jim Knox boardroom at the building which CARES and the Resource Center share. And we see his photograph outside that boardroom every time we use it. And we're honored to have that. And we raised $12,000 to add to our endowment fund that year in Jim's name for that foundation grant. I'm sorry. Yesterday, when I was at lunch with our board president, Richard Hyatt, we were talking about Jim and wondering how this would go and what I would say. I knew that I would be upset and tongue-tied, and yet honored to be here and to speak of his names and to remind us all the great things he's done and how much he's meant to all of us. And Jim was always very supportive of me personally when I was having struggles in my either volunteer work, my board position at CARES, or my employment at CARES. We would have lunch together just to talk. And he was so supportive and so optimistic all the time. And so yesterday when I was meeting with Richard, he said, you know, the last thing that Jim said to me was that you should run with it. And what he was referring to is I just received the honor of becoming the new executive director of CARES. And he believed in me and wanted to show support in me. And through Richard, his last words came to me as, just run with it. So for Jimmy, I'm just going to run with it. And I really want to thank you all for being here. Thanks so much.
I just simply had to say something about Jimmy because I loved him dearly. We knew each other, of course, from Purdue University days when he was absolutely recognized as a super prop person there, a very, very talented man. He and I have worked together, of course, all these years, his 41 years at the Barn Theater. And I simply have to tell one story about him. It was, we were doing You Can't Take It With You. And I did the set. And Jimmy always dressed the sets for me, did all the props and the furniture, and we worked well together. And he told me what he was going to do to the windows. This was a setting that took place in an old Victorian type house. Wonderful play. Betty Ebert was one of the stars in it that time. Anyway, Jimmy told me that he was going to dress these windows, and he showed me 3 different patterns of fabric, all on one window. And I said, oh, Jimmy, that's not going to work. That's too much. And he said, wait. Well, I waited, and he dressed the windows, and let me tell you, it was gorgeous. It was perfect. And that's the way Jimmy was. He and I just really, we were like a real good team as far as dressing sets and so forth were concerned. And I can't tell you how much I cared for him both as an artist, a person. He was so supportive of my fundraisers as well. I worked with the Kalamazoo Animal Rescue, and Jimmy was a big animal person as well. He had raised birds and loved dogs and cats, and even had a pet rabbit. And we have found homes for those, by the way. And he would come to my fundraiser for the animal rescue and always supported me in everything I did that way. So I want to thank you, Jim, wherever you are, and we'll miss you. Thank you.
When I was asked to speak on behalf of the members of the board of CARES, everyone went, oh no. And I didn't know where to start. I think it's really incredibly appropriate that we're here in this space today. We've heard so much of how much Jim loved it. When I first met Jim, I really wondered who this guy was that disappeared every May and reappeared at the AIDS Walk, complete with food and the coffee pots and having raised the most money. And he did it year in and year out. And as I became more familiar with Kalamazoo and this area, because I moved here in '81 when this whole thing was just starting. And like Jim, I'd lost friends to grid. and had to do something. And Jim was a big part of that beginning for me. In 2006, he was awarded the Star Award for career volunteer for the work that he did for CARES and for the Resource Center in the preceding year. And according to the Gazette, he put in over 1,200 volunteer hours the year that year in receiving that award. And I think it's also incredibly appropriate that both the Resource Center Board and the CARES Board meet in the Jim Knox boardroom. And I was afraid it was going to feel a little odd. And yet, as David Feaster told me on the phone, and then again a couple of days ago, what a comfort it is to go into that room and to feel Jim's presence, because it is his boardroom. And both of the organizations that he helped found meet there and conduct their business there. And so Jim will continue to attend those meetings with us. I'm sure that all of us have our stories. Not long ago, I was honored, along with Dr. William Warfield, the president of the NAA, and Kathy Murray. We were honored by Church Women United to receive the Human Rights Award for 2010. And the day they gave out that award was the day after the night that we had all said farewell to Terry Kosetsky. And I had planned to give a really nice speech about CARES, and at that award ceremony, all I could do was talk about Terry and human rights and stand in the importance of all of us to continue that work, standing on the shoulders of giants. And on the day after Jim died, I believe on the Facebook page, someone referred to him as a gentle giant. Everyone in this room, whether you're gay or lesbian, transgender, a young person wondering what's going on with your life, a proud parent, lives in a community that is a better place because Jim Knox lived. And so today, and I promise you, Jim, we'll try to live up to it, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Jim and Terry, wherever you are, we pledge to carry on your work, and we celebrate that you are guiding us. And there is no greater legacy that anyone could have.